is Mystery Meat's Fine Dining podcast, helping foodies discover new restaurants and new friends. Here's your host, the founder of Mystery Meat, Seth Ressler.
Hello, and welcome to Mystery Meat's Fine Dining podcast. My name is Seth Ressler, and I'm excited today because we're going down south to Atlanta. We're going to be talking to Grant and Marie Goggins of the Marie Let's Eat blog, and we're going to find out a little bit about what you should eat in Atlanta. If you don't know, here's how the podcast works. We talk to local food bloggers, get their restaurant recommendations. So, Grant and Marie.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for taking a few minutes to talk to me.
Our pleasure.
We're glad to be here.
All right, so we're going to talk to you a little bit about your blog, and then we're going to, kind of get the foodie perspective on Atlanta, find out what a foodie needs to know about the city. We're going to get your restaurant recommendation, which I'm really excited about, and then we're going to play Out of the Frying Pan, a little game that we like to play with food bloggers. But before we do all that, I want to make sure that people know what Mystery Meat is. This is a social dining group that we started up in Boston. It's a bunch of people who get together to try a new restaurant, but there's a catch. They don't know where they're eating until 24 hours in advance. So it's a bunch of foodies like you and me, and we all get together, we buy our tickets, and have no idea where we're going. And really, it's an opportunity to sit down with a bunch of foodies and just talk about food for 2 hours. That's just an excuse to do that, which is a lot of fun. And we're not doing it in Atlanta yet, but we want to, if you guys will have us. We'd love to come down there and do that. All you have to do is go to mysterymeat.org and click the big orange button that says Get an Invitation and sign up for email invitations in the city of Atlanta. And when we see a bunch of people down there that want to have us come down, we'll start a Mystery Meat dinner down there. Sound like a good deal to you, Grant Marie?
I would not at all be opposed to that.
Let's talk about the blog. Let's talk about Marie Let's Eat. How long have you guys been blogging?
We started the blog in February of 2010. And I like to think that we'd been living the lifestyle for several years before then. We just didn't really know that we could write about it.
So tell me what actually inspired you to write. I mean, why did you decide, hey, I want to start telling people about what we're eating?
If you're not familiar with the writer Calvin Trillin, I really strongly recommend that you check out his book. Starting in the 70s, he began writing as a New Yorker, let's get away from these big fancy restaurants on the top of tall skyscrapers and talk about the sort of places, not where you would take your boss, but where you would want to go after you've been out of the country. Let's get to those sorts of restaurants. And he wrote 3 really wonderful books about food, which are collected in an omnibus edition called The Tummy Trilogy. The Tummy Trilogy, I got that as a gift for my birthday in 2009. And I read those 3 books and I said, good heavens, we're not alone. This is the way to do it. We love making road trips. We love driving around the country and getting off the beaten path. We'd always enjoyed finding fun little road food establishments.
We actually put that into action on our honeymoon. We spent our honeymoon driving a couple thousand miles all the way up the eastern seaboard and back down again up to Canada. We ate at a number of really wonderful places, and Brent has put them up on the blog as a honeymoon flashback series.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It honestly didn't even occur to us that we could be writing and sharing these fun experiences for several months after I read the book. And I said, well, this is such a great idea that we can just share and see where this goes. And we've got to meet so many fun people and made some new friends doing this. And it's just been a wonderful experience.
Now, how do you find the places that you like to go to? Because obviously you're not digging through a Zaggett's guide. Where do you come up with them?
Well, roadfood.com is a terrific resource. There's several very, very knowledgeable people on the forums, and there's a great Where Should I Eat page where, hey, I'm going to be driving from Myrtle Beach to Oxford, Mississippi. Where can I stop along the way? And there's so many people who can just pop up with really great ideas. And a lot of it is barbecue themed, and a lot of it is, if you're on the coastal areas, fish camps that people may not have really known about. And those guys are a really terrific resource. Urban Spoon is a very helpful resource as well.
We're not really looking for Michelin stars. We're looking for a fun dining experience. Now, I have a tendency to pick more restaurants that focus on local foods, locally sourced, those kinds of themes. Grant has a little bit more of a tendency to focus on restaurants that have been around for a long time. So it's the experience of being at the restaurant more than the number of stars.
Tell me a little bit about Atlanta. I mean, I've been there, but I've only seen Atlanta from really the inside of hotel rooms. Talk to me about the city from a foodie perspective. If I'm coming in and I want to explore the cuisine of Atlanta, what do I need to know?
I think any foodie who's interested in lots of traditional cooking from other countries would really love to go up and down Beaufort Highway. It's a long corridor that goes through the small towns of Chambly and Dunwoody. And that's where so many people from Vietnam, from Korea, from China, from Latin American countries have settled. And Atlanta was, for years, sort of under the thumb of Tex-Mex cooking, or in the terms of Chinese restaurants, what I like to call golden this, happy that restaurant. And for decades, no one really knew what authentic Chinese cooking was, because all of the Chinese cooks and chefs in this country were conforming to the stereotype, conforming to that palate. And it was in Beaufort Highway that restaurants finally started cropping up where, no, really, this is what cuisine tastes like in other countries.
That sounds great. Any other neighborhoods that are definitely worth checking out?
Decatur is a really interesting place. It's got a lot of good neighborhoods where you have the food and the parking and the residential areas all together. There is a very wide variety of food there, and the focus that I have on locally sourced food is something that brings us to that area.
Farmburger is a particularly interesting place. Atlanta went through a boom of burger joints in 2009, 2010, to the point that lots of the local people started rolling their eyes whenever a new one would open. But Farmburger, I think, is heads and shoulders above all of the rest of them. They routinely, regularly serve up just about the best hamburger I've ever had. It is locally sourced beef, locally sourced vegetables, and they do an amazing job.
Tell me a little bit about some of the big foodie events that happen in Atlanta.
September is a particularly good time because we've got two terrific ones in September. We've got the Whole Hog Happening, which is a great thing in Marietta. Marietta is a suburb just to the northwest of Atlanta that brings in a lot of barbecue restaurants from around the region to show off their cooking. We've also got the great Miller Lite Stone Mountain Chili Cook-Off. Stone Mountain is this gigantic chunk of exposed granite, the largest in the world, and it's a great big mountain of granite, and they've got a wonderfully huge park around it. And the Chili Cook-Off brings about 300 different competitors. We've tried for years and years and years. I don't think that it is possible to have a bite of every single person's chili.
How many chilies are we talking?
300 different participants cooking up their chili.
Yeah, that would be hard.
Atlanta's only recently embraced food trucks, probably one of the last major metro areas in the country to really do so. There's a street food festival that had its first year very successfully this year.
Good.
There's a few good beer festivals in Atlanta. The Decatur Craft Beer Festival is October 20th. That is really fun.
And I imagine that fall is a great time of year to visit just because it gets a little cooler there as well.
You don't know half of what you're saying.
Every year it's worse. It peaked 105 a couple of times this summer with 100% humidity. And I've lived in Georgia all my life, and it just feels like it gets worse every year.
So you mentioned Decatur as one of the great places to go for food, and I know that that's actually where your restaurant recommendation is. What are you recommending?
We're recommending Leon's Full Service. It's in a location that actually used to be a gas station, and that's the part of how they got their name. The ethos of the restaurant is to provide full service. It is owned by the three guys who owned Mellow Mushroom in Athens.
The guys named Dave Blanchard, Mike Gallagher, and Tom Moore, and they all worked at this one location of Mellow Mushroom, which is a very large chain in the southeast with, probably close to 100 locations. The one in Athens, which opened in the mid-'70s, got an amazingly good reputation as one of the best places to go to have a really, really expansive beer menu back at a time where that wasn't very common. And also in Athens at the time, there was and there still is, a really, really good bar called The Globe. It has a very elegant feel to it, but also a very rustic feel. And Dave, Mike, and Tom were saying that, if we can open a place that has the feel of The Globe, this particular vibe, this atmosphere, but we can have this kind of fantastically huge beer menu, we're onto a winner. So in 97, they opened the Brick Store Pub in Decatur. And the Brick Store is renowned throughout the country as being one of, if not the very best beer bar in the country. Their beer menu is unbelievably dense. And the success of Brick Store led them to open Leon's in 2009.
Tell me a little bit about the cuisine there.
They're really famous for their pub free. They have a lot of different sauces for them. You can have curry, you can have pepper mayo, you can have a wide variety of things. What's really good about that is you can have a big tray of them for the table to share and a bunch of different individual items.
So you can try a little bit of everything.
Exactly. You also have several other things like fried green tomato sandwich. If you want to have some real southern food, you definitely got to have a fried green tomato. That is one of the things that the South does really well. It's very good regional cuisine.
Let's start with this fried green tomato sandwich, because this is not something that I've had before.
You've never had a fried green tomato before.
No, tell me what makes a great fried green tomato sandwich.
The breading, the batter. Most of the time, chefs are going to use a buttermilk component in their batter. Just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, just the right tomato. Serve that with a little bit of a remoulade with some lettuce on nice fresh bread, and it is heaven, absolute heaven.
What they do is they have 4 main dishes. They've got a flat iron steak, veggie meatloaf, pub burger, and the fried green tomato sandwich. They don't have a really wide-ranging menu. They've got specialties, and they're good at them.
The veggie meatloaf is particularly interesting.
Tell me a little bit about what to drink here. I mean, I realize that they've got a wide-ranging beer list. What should I be pairing with my burger or my fried green tomato sandwich?
We've got 2 really, really good breweries in the area, Sweetwater here in Atlanta and Terrapin in Athens. And I believe that Leon's always has at least one beer from each of those breweries.
All right, we're going to play a game that's called Out of the Frying Pan. Here's how it works. I'm going to ask you for a recommendation, and you're just going to tell me the first thing that pops into your head, all right? You guys ready to play?
Ready to play.
Grant, what is your favorite restaurant to take out-of-town guests to?
Well, that would be the Mary Mac's Tea Room. Dates back to the late 1940s, and out-of-town guests are guaranteed a good time if they've never been before, because they're going to get a free complimentary cup of pot liquor before their meal arrives, and probably get a back rub from one of the hospitality ladies who come around at the end of the meal.
Oh, that's not a bad deal. I'm going there. Who's your favorite local chef?
I'm going to go with Hugh Atchison. His local in the Atlanta restaurant is Empire State South. He has 2 more in Athens, one of which is 5 and 10, which is remarkable. And Hugh Atchison is all about bringing just enough of modern fusion to old-style classics. He works wonders.
Marie, for your next birthday, what restaurant do you want Grant to take you to?
I think I'd like to go back to Discours de France. We haven't been there for quite a while, and I celebrated knowing that I was going to have a son by going and having the best eclair that I can remember ever having.
Grant, tell me, you mentioned a couple. Tell me your favorite spot for dessert in all of Atlanta.
In Atlanta, I'm going to go with Pie Shop in Buckhead. Everyone who works there is having the absolute time of their life making really good pies. Mims is she's a ray of sunshine whenever you go in the place, and nothing better than a great big gigantic slice of chocolate pie and a glass of milk to wash it down.
All right, and last question, Marie, this one's for you. Where's your favorite place to get soup?
It's Come and Get It, and the last time I was sick, I really wanted to have some of their chicken and rice soup, because it's not your normal chicken noodle soup. It's nice and thick, but it still feels really good when you have a sore throat. All
right, you guys are great. Thank you for playing. I really appreciate it. The restaurant recommendation is Leon's Full Service. It's at 131 Ponce de Leon. Why am I saying it all French? in Decatur, Georgia. If people want to follow your blog, they want to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
MarieLet'sEat.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate finding out all about Atlanta and finding out about your restaurant recommendation. And it was a lot of fun having you guys.
Thanks for having us. It was great.
This is Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast. I'm Seth Ressler. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to join us for a Mystery Meat dinner, you want to have a Mystery Meat dinner in your town, what you got to do is go to mysterymeat.org, click the big orange button, sign up for an invitation. If you like this podcast, do us a favor, go to iTunes and just give us a rating. And if you're a blogger, you want to make a restaurant recommendation, we'd love to have you. Just go to mysterymeat.org and click the Contact Us link and send us an email. We'd love to have you join us for the Mystery Meat Fine Dining Podcast. Thank you so much.
This has been Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast. You can find links to the websites mentioned in this episode at mysterymeat.org/podcast. Thank you for listening.